Hello there YouTuber, it's Captain 1050 and welcome to this video, the first substantive video in the police roleplay lecture series. In this video, we were going to look at Theory 101, so the first theory module. Now before I begin, I would like to advise you to make sure you have a notepad or something ready to take notes if you really want to learn very quickly. Of course, if you're here just for the entertainment, that's perfectly fine, and I hope you're going to enjoy the video regardless. Hope you're going to have a great time, and hopefully you're going to learn something from that. Be advised that you do not have to use everything I'm going to tell you in this lecture series. It's up to you as a player to decide which things you want to accept, which things you want to maybe remove, and just to tailor all these SOPs and all this stuff that I'm going to tell you to your requirements and to your service requirements. Let's look at the content we're going to be going through in the entire theory module. So not just this video, but the entire thing. First thing that we're going to look at is the golden rule, then communication, response priority, police jargon and roleplay jargon, police powers, 5 steps of arresting, and lastly, processing. With that in mind, let's just get into the introduction. And the first thing in the introduction I should be talking about are the possible games you could play if you want to roleplay as a police officer. There's a lot of them out there, but there are a few that I would really recommend, right? And first and foremost is GTA5. I think it's a great game. It's not that expensive to buy anymore. And you can play as a police officer in either the offline game mode or in an online game mode. So LSPDFR is the offline version. Basically, you just need to download a program, put it in your GTA5 folder. There's a lot of guides out there, so just Google LSPDFR. And it allows you to play GTA5 just like you normally would offline, but instead of playing one of the protagonists, you're going to play a police officer. It can be really fun, and it's just a great program overall. Get some great mods in there. You should really check it out if you have GTA5. FiveM, on the other hand, is an online version of it. So you play with other people, and it provides some more kind of roleplay, let's say, if you're interested in that. I definitely advise you to check it out as well if you own GTA5. It's, of course, both of these programs are completely free, so you don't have to worry about that. If you're not a GTA5 guy, you could maybe look into Red Dead Redemption 2, and I'm pretty sure stuff like stuff like LSPDFR and FiveM will come to Red Dead Redemption very quickly. And if you're more of an old school guy, Arma is also still quite a potent force in roleplay. Now, a very important topic we need to touch upon as well is your attitude. And your attitude will define if you want to play an offline police kind of game or an online police game. So let's look at what I mean. The biggest problem people have is that they cannot control their winning attitude, okay? Now, there's nothing wrong with winning. Don't get me wrong, right? We all want to win. And in real life, police will obviously try to win. They'll do a lot to win, and they'll overpower you as much as they can because that's what they have to do, right? They're protecting your life and the safety of the society. But you need to remember that this is a game. And in a game, if one side is going to overpower another side, it is going to create problems. So let's look at an example, right? Always breaching banks, for example, always shooting out tires or spiking tires in every single situation. So at the beginning of a chase, using excessive force, just, mag dumping, stuff like that. It's just excessive winning attitude, all right? And the problem it causes is civilians will be afraid to do crime. And when there's no crime, there's going to be nothing to do for the police. And when there's nothing to do for the police, then the police is going to stop playing. And after that, even the hardcore criminals are going to stop playing and the server dies. So if you are a hardcore winner, then you need to be careful about playing an online community, okay? Or at least try to control your winning attitude. Now, second parameter is roleplay. And that is also very important. Now, sometimes we really want to roleplay. And then FiveM is an amazing platform for that. Because you can interact with other people. You don't know what's going to happen. And sometimes it's going to be really fun and interesting to just look at what's going to happen with your character. And if you just don't feel like doing that, LSPDFR is perfect. Because if you get in a situation you don't like, you can just, press escape or whatnot, and you're out of the game. So an attitude is not a constant thing. That's something you should also remember. And some days you're just going to feel like winning and you're going to feel like, being a bit crazy. And those days, play LSPDFR. You're gonna have a way better time. But on other days, you really feel like role playing and kind of getting that experience. And on those days, you should play FiveM. It's not wrong to play LSPDFR and FiveM at the same time, right? You just need to see what would suit you better in that specific situation. Now let's have a look at the first substantive slide, and that is the golden rule. You might think it's kind of silly, but when you start thinking about it, you'll realize that this is probably one of the most important slides of the entire lecture series. The golden rule states that whenever you start interacting with a civilian when you're on duty, you should always start off by saying, "Hello, my name is Officer X from the LSPD BCSO SHB. How are you doing today?" It may sound very silly, but it really isn't. And an example of the golden rule would be, "Hello there, my name is Officer Nick Turner from the LSPD. How are you doing today?" The golden rule is powerful for 3 different reasons. First of all, it de-escalates the situation. Now, what do I mean with that? Usually, when you're a civilian and you have an interaction with the police, you are very scared because you don't know if you're gonna get fined, jailed, if your license is gonna get suspended. You have no clue. And because the police is so powerful, you are just inherently a bit scared. Now, by using the golden rule, you're just turning a traffic stop into a friendly conversation. See, I'm asking the gentleman, "Hello, how are you doing today?" So, kind of getting some sort of interaction out of him, getting a conversation. That's really important. People become less scared and they become much more cooperative. Second reason why it's powerful to use the golden phrase, by stating your name and department, you show that you have nothing to hide, and it gives you a lot of power against the person you're stopping, right? Because you become a credible person, right, with some sort of authority. And lastly, possibly most importantly though, it creates roleplay. This question, "How are you doing today?" is insanely powerful. You don't know how many times I got into some very funny situations just because people told me a very interesting story that I picked up on and roleplayed it out. Next thing, let's look at basic communication. Now, communication is really important for a well-functioning police department because your strength comes from numbers. Now, in order to shorten radio communications, most police departments use so-called 10 codes. So that's just a 10 followed by a number. There's a lot of them. So we're going to look into that in a bit. But just so you know, if you can't remember the 10 code, don't be afraid. Don't freak out, but just use like a short word equivalent. Okay, and we're going to look at those in a bit. It is important to know the 3 parts of a radio call out. So when you start calling something out, make sure you use the 3 parts. First part is who, second part is what are you doing, and the third part is what is the situation or additional information. Let's look at who. Who is your badge number? You always start up with your badge number if you look at the image below. So 106, 222, whatever it is. Badge number first. Next thing is the 10 code, which usually describes what you are doing. And then lastly, just a bit of additional information. And of course, as the image says, an example will be 106, 1076 to the 911. Now, be advised that 10 codes differ between states, and you need to be very careful not to confuse them. I would definitely recommend you have a chat with your field training officer or whoever is responsible for your training and ask them which 10 code system you actually use. Now for the 10 code list, I would definitely recommend you check the description below for a link to a very nice table that someone has done with all the 10 codes. Now I could have done one myself, but honestly, it's really is done to a pretty high standard, so I recommend you just check it out. Now, it's important to note that you shouldn't really be afraid when you see the entire list, all right? Just, take your time, and I'll promise you that you'll do well. We've all been in the same situation. From my experience, I think you're going to learn the vast majority of 10 codes, at least the ones you're going to use often, within the first 3 to 5 days. So, if you're going to be active. So do just keep practicing and don't give up. Good thing you can also do is just try doing a few dry callouts, example callouts. I don't know, before you go to bed or something like that, if you're really, really hardcore into it. Just repeat the 3 steps of a radio communication, right? Or the 3 parts of the radio communication. Badge number, 10 code, situation, and you're going to be fine. Now, let's look at your first 10 codes. So the first 4 10 codes you're gonna learn are going to be connected to you being on and off duty. These are probably one of the most important 10 codes as well. because by telling other units that you're on duty, that means that they can now have an additional unit that can respond to calls. And it's also just as important to note when you are off duty. Otherwise, the commanding officer or dispatcher can be moving around units that no longer exist, right? So ghost units. And trust me, you're going to get in a lot of trouble if that happens. Callout consists out of two 10 codes, and that is 1041 and 108. 1041 means you're on duty, basically in the game, and 108 means you're in service, or with other words, available for calls. You can respond to different situations. An example callout, as you can see in the image below, is 106, 1041, 108. That's it, right? There's no situation, no additional info needed, so just stop it right here. Next example is going to be your off-duty callout. Only two 10 codes you need to know for that. That is 1042 and 107. 1042 means you're off duty, no longer playing, and 107 means you're out of service and unavailable for calls. An example of the callout, as you can see in the image, 106, 1042, 107. Great job. A pro tip you can use, 107 and 108 can also be used without the 1041 and 1042 combination. So if you just want to say 107, that means you're just unavailable for a certain time. Good example, maybe if you need to go to the toilet break or something like that, you can just say 106, 107, 5 minutes. Perfect call out. And when you come back, just say 106 back 108 to make sure that the units know you're again available to respond. Next really important step are the 3 steps to responding to a situation. Now, it's insanely important that you notify other units what you are doing. It's mostly there for your own safety. And secondly, it is there so that you can optimally divide your labor with your fellow police officers. You really don't want to have 10 units responding to a cat on a tree call. That's just excessive. Now, the 3 steps are, first of all, communicate that you take the call, then communicate you're on scene, and lastly, communicate that the situation is over or under control. Let's look at how you call out that you're responding to a situation. For that, you just need one 10 code, that's 1076. An example callout is 106, my badge number, 1076, the 10 code describing that I am responding or en route to the 911 call, which is just describing the situation. Now, pro tip, if you've got multiple 911 calls or multiple situations, it is advisable that you specify which one you're taking, right? So I would say something like 106, 1076 to the latest 911 call, or 106, 1076 to the 911 call on Elgin Avenue. Once you're on scene, it is really important that you call out that you are on scene, primarily for your safety, right? Now, for that, we're going to introduce a few more 10 codes to make it a bit more difficult. So the first one is 1023, and that just means that you're on scene. 1090 is a robbery in progress, and that's a great example of a 10 code which also describes a situation, and there's actually a lot of those. And lastly, we've got a code, so no 10 codes, just a code, and it's code 6. Which means investigating. So now with our knowledge, let's try to use the 3 parts of a callout to actually successfully make a callout. Firstly, badge number, then 10 code, the situation. So let's try it out. 106, 1023 at the 1090, code 6. What does that mean? 106 obviously badge number, 1023 10 code. 1090 means that I'm now at the robbery in progress. It's either store or bank robbery. And then that code 6 at the end means you're investigating the area. It's very, very nicely done. Now, if you want to be a 10 out of 10 guy and really be a pro, you can also add additional information if you see a suspect or not. So an example would be 106, 1023 at the 1090, suspect is in sight, or 106, 1023 at the 1090, no suspect in sight, code 6. Right? So just basically add a suspect in sight or not. Nextly, let's have a look how we call out that the situation is over. Again, it's really important so that you're safe, and also it's important so that the dispatcher knows they can be sending you off to different callouts, right? So for that specific situation, we're going to introduce a new code. That's a code 4, means all clear. And that is one of only 2 codes which can get into the 10 code slot. And that's code 4 and code 5. Code 5 is a felony. Don't worry about that. Wait for the traffic zone to come up, and then you're going to figure out what that is. So an example of the callout would be 106, code 4 on the 1090, back 108. Let's look at that. 106, obviously badge number. Then comes the 10 code, or code in a rare example. And then the situation, 1090, robbery in progress. And of course, back 108 at the end is mandatory because you need to notify the other units that you're also available. Now, Sometimes there's going to be multiple units responding to a call, right? And in that case, we can use the same traffic command. And we don't want 5 units to say 106 code 4 and 1090 and then the other 5 times different units just say the same thing. That just clogs up the radio, not efficient. So what you can do is simply say your badge number and add same traffic. So for example, if I'm 106 and there's a unit, I don't know, 222, unit 222 could call out 222 code 4 back 108, and then I can just say same traffic. So it's really important that you note that you shouldn't be overclogging the radio with comms. Now, every state has their own procedures about radio, but I honestly don't recommend you talk a lot about your personal stuff and I don't know what you're gonna have for dinner, because honestly, in some situations, it can cause a lot of issues. So try to keep your communication short, clear, and I'm sure you're gonna do great. Now, for more 10 codes, make sure you check the link in the description, as I said already, and contact your FTOs to make sure that these 10 codes are appropriate. A few other ones I'm gonna give you just as a few 10 codes that are very useful is 1078 and 1077. Now, 1078 is emergency backup needed, so you need help fast. 1077 is just backup required. It's not an emergency, but you want someone on your side. Then we have a 10 free. 10 free is basically, stop talking on the radio. Alternatively, sometimes you're going to hear a break command as well. It goes something like break, break, break. If you hear that, also shut up because an important transmission is coming over the radio. Another one that's important is a 10-9. That is just a repeat. And also, one of my favorite ones is 1050. That's also where my YouTube and Twitch names come from. And that just means vehicle collision. So when you crash, you say 1050. Now, if you don't remember the 10 code, don't be afraid. And particularly if you're a beginner, it's all good. Just make sure you have a short word equivalent, right? So something like responding, 106 on scene, 106 all clear. It's all good, right? It doesn't really matter. But if you can do the 10 codes, it really makes you look awesome. When it comes to 1080s, which are chases, so pursuits, we're going to be looking more into the communications within the pursuits in a different video that's going to be in a traffic zone. So do check the description, or you have to unfortunately wait for it to come out if it's not out yet. But definitely check it out. It's going to be pretty fun. And then lastly, it's a code red. So we use a code red when we want to describe a very serious situation. Particularly if a suspect has harmed, attempted to harm, or almost harmed a local, who are NPCs, or civilians who are players. So we use NPCs, we call locals, right? Because if you call an NPC, it's not immersive, right? And also a player is a civilian. Example of that is you have a chase and a guy just plows into a group of people and injures them. That clearly shows you they have no regard for their life. So it's a dangerous person. We need to stop him quickly. We need to get more additionals. Now, code red does not mean you're going to freak out. And a lot of officers, they just freak out. Don't do it. Follow procedures, get more additionals. Be advised that it's a dangerous situation. Doesn't mean you're gonna ram the hell out of them. Doesn't mean you're gonna, unload an RPG on them. Just follow SoPs. And then lastly is direct messaging and muting. Sometimes you're gonna have to just direct message someone on the radio because they know more or you need their help or something like that. In that case, it's very simple. Just use the 2 batch numbers and add a direct at the end. One example, 106 to 222 direct. Very good. You can also use names you want, but batch numbers are probably faster. If you want to receive a message, very simple. You just say send it or send for 106. Both work brilliantly. Muting your radio. Try not to mute your radio if you only can, but sometimes we just have to. Particularly if you're processing someone or if you're interrogating someone, you have to mute your radio. That's fine. But just make sure you make the other units aware, because if you don't, they might freak out, they might think you're kidnapped, and it's not very, very fun. So just say something like 106, 10-6 for interrogation, muting radio, call 911 if needed. So let's analyze that again, 3 parts of the call out. 106 badge number, 10-6 means you're busy, and then the situation is for interrogation, additional info, muting radio, call 911 if needed. And that is the most important part of this. Call 911 if needed. A lot of officers, once they mute their radio, they just don't communicate anymore, right? You should still be available to other units. And the best way to reach you is just by 911 calling that unit that is muted or 311 calling them if you have that system. And that's it, guys and girls. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you learned something, or at least that you had some fun and enjoyment. I really hope that you're gonna add your comments and your experiences in the comment section below so that we can all learn something from each other. With that in mind, I hope you also subscribe if you feel those videos are interesting to you, and also feel free to follow me on Twitch if you want to see more live Captain 1050 action, and if you want to ask some questions or stuff like that. I'll be always very, very happy to respond to you. With that in mind, I'm just gonna say, YouTuber, show Captain 1050, 1042, 107. Stay safe.